You can see just the reason why I scored both these papers the way that I did. So here's our rubric right here. So first one, I'm going with my introduction paragraph. Reconstruction is the title here with a question mark. Many of us wonder who really killed Reconstruction. Was it the North or was it the South? Well, as I'm looking at it, that's an okay attention getter. I wouldn't say that it's fantastic, but there's definitely something there trying to grab my attention. The South had slaves and wanted to be their own country, but then there's the North that wants the whole country together as one nation, and the North is not a big fan of slavery. Alright, as we stop this one, I'm looking already at my grammar, and this is starting to look quite a bit like a run-on sentence. So keep that in mind. You know, you want to keep your points more concise, more clear, maybe a little bit shorter than that. After the Civil War ended, the South was still not entirely happy, so you started to see the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, going around killing blacks. This one right here, again, some points going to be taken off for grammar and spelling because there's no reason you have to capitalize the K in there. So the North sent some troops down to the South to make sure none of the blacks get harmed. Well, all this is true right here, but President Johnson sent the North troops back. Alright, so let's take a look at how I'm going to grade this. Is there an attention getter? I'd say that there is. It might not be the strongest, but it is there. Does she use some background from the background essay? You know, she definitely talks about things that are happening down south, you know, the fact that troops are sent down. So she's done an okay job with the attention getter, and this person's also done a decent job with the background essay and talking a little bit about the situation. What I don't see, though, is any thesis and roadmap. Right now I have no idea. Are they talking about it's the South's fault, or are they talking it's the North's fault, and they're not giving me any direction as to where they're going to go in their paper. Alright, so therefore I gave this person a 2 out of 3 because they did have some of the components, but they did not have them all. Now let's look at the first paragraph of their first body paragraph. In my opinion, the South defiantly killed Reconstruction because of, well, many reasons. This is something, quite frankly, that should be in the introduction. I could have given them points for the thesis, and then maybe this could have moved from a 2 to a 2.5 had this writer chosen to do that. And again, this because of, well, many reasons. This is the part right here, and a lot of you have done this in the past with DBQs. You just tell me, well, and there are other reasons too. That's this roadmap that I'm looking for. Give me those many reasons. Tell me why those different things happen. So if we could take this sentence, move it up here, alright, so if we just move it, it makes a lot more sense there, but then give me examples of the many reasons. Tell me some of those many reasons. You know, and if this person listed them out, they could have done better. So if instead here we put our ... you know, and then, you know, you fill in with relevant information, that's a better spot for it. The president at the time, again, this doesn't show me that the person knows a whole lot. You should know that this is President Johnson. It's something that we've discussed. It's something that's in the documents. You should be able to do a little better job in this. It was pretty much on neither of their sides, but he was trying to. Pretty unclear sentence here. I'm not sure where the writer's trying to go. The North tries to help down south with stopping the KKK and all that. What is all that? And all that violence. Be more specific. Alright? I want to know what types of violence you're talking about. We know that there is violence on there, but again, be specific. But the South took it the wrong way. The North should have known, though, that sending troops into the South would have only make things more badly. Again, this person, I think this is probably the second time there's been an error with some grammar, and so we're kind of right on the edge here now between these two. And then the person uses a citation. Again, you're supposed to use the documents as a citation, yet this person uses an outside resource. It's okay to bring in outside resources. I don't have a problem with that. But this paragraph was pretty unclear, and I really wasn't sure where the person was going. So as I'm grading the body paragraphs, you know, there wasn't, it was kind of an unclear topic sentence. You know, they definitely used some citations. I don't think that there's a question about that. And there was maybe a little bit of analysis. You know, they're talking about what the North should have done, you know, different things. But, you know, really when you look at it, I would probably put this somewhere in here. So probably a 1.5 for this paragraph. But again, you know, as you look at this, North tries to help down South with stopping the KKK. This really isn't a lot about the South. You know, so I guess I'm kind of being generous. Because remember, the thesis statement here is the South defiantly killed Reconstruction. Well, this doesn't talk a lot about what the South does. So, again, this is kind of generous that I'm giving a 1.5 here. By this point, the South was mad because there were already been Confederate states join the Union, so that means less states to help the South because their very own country. Alright, this is probably the third error that I've seen. This sentence just doesn't make sense. And again, it's hard for me to understand what you're saying, and again, that's why I always encourage students to proofread. President Johnson was trying very hard to keep the country together, but things kept ending up to not be fair, so one side of the country would become mad and they would stay where they started. Run-on sentence, too long, confusing for me. The KKK was a big part in the Reconstruction, while the killing of Reconstruction. The KKK ignored an amendment that should stop their behavior. Alright, again, they use an outside resource, which is okay, but I think you're really going to find the documents to be easier to work with because they're already there. In addition to that, you know, I think that they might be more easy to understand because I'm not, again, really understanding much here. Clearly a citation was used, no question, because they cited it right down here. Again, some analysis, but you know, it's unclear what they're saying. So again, I'm being generous, and I gave them a 1.5 for this second body paragraph. So right now they're at 3. They've got 5 out of 15 total points. You know, and really 5 out of 9 of their first points. So a lot of things missing here. Let's see. And then this last paragraph, this is supposed to be a conclusion. I'm going to read this to you, and I can tell you I really don't feel it's much of a conclusion. Something that I think was something the South got very mad about is that blacks were trying to be a part of the government. Right now, this person is definitely in this 3 to 4 errors. This is a difficult paper to understand. Southerners obviously believe that only white men should be running the government. If the KKK didn't kill a black man for trying to be in the government, the KKK would offer that black person a somewhat large amount of money. If the blacks refused, the black was killed. If the black accepted, he would get some money, but he could not run for anything to do with the government. Run on. To a large extent. That is a long sentence, and it's difficult for me to decipher where they're going with it. So I defiantly think, I'm pretty sure this was meant to be definitely, but defiantly could work depending how the author uses it. Think that the South killed Reconstruction even with the little things they did that make a huge difference. Is this a conclusion? Not really. It's more of a body paragraph. It seems disconnected from the main points. The essay is missing. You know, I did give this person a half point on this out of 3, only because they at least attempted it. They did have that other paragraph, but again, this really isn't a conclusion. This doesn't restate the main facts. This doesn't, lead into future examples. It doesn't advance the main points of the essay. It's just kind of another body paragraph thrown in there, and there really isn't a conclusion. Again, it's kind of being nice. I mean, they at least tried to have that other paragraph. So I graded them a 0.5 for that one. And for grammar, I was possibly a little generous. I think it was probably somewhere between here and here, and I did give them 2 points for that. So in all total, this person only got a 7.5 out of 15, which is only a 50%. Were there some good things about the paper? Absolutely there were, but when you go through it completely, you can really see that there's not a lot of good things here, and a lot of errors. Now let's take a look at a little bit of a better example here. Let's go through this one. The North forgot is the title here. How could they forget? Alright, I like this. It's a question as an attention getter. It makes you wonder, like, what is this person going to talk about? You would think, after fighting all those years and winning the war, that the North would focus on equal rights, but that didn't quite happen. After some time, other problems arose, and the focus on equal rights wavered, causing the Reconstruction to slowly fall apart. Attention getter is there. Background information, they talk about, the different parts of the war. The thesis statement is, although it's not completely clear, I'm still going to give this person credit, because they talk about, you would think after winning the war that the North would focus on equal rights, but that didn't quite happen. That basically, in a roundabout way, is saying that it's the North's fault. Again, it's not explicit, but the person does mention it. After some time, other problems arose, and the focus, and here's where they use their roadmap. Here's where they're telling me that they're going with their paper. The focus on equal rights wavered, so we know that there's not going to be a big concern about equal rights. Other problems arose. Again, this could have been a little more specific, and then causing the Reconstruction to slowly fall apart. So basically telling me that this wasn't something that happened all at one time. Could it have been a little better? Yeah. The thesis could have been slightly more clear, and the roadmap could have been present. But overall, based on a lot of the DBQs that I've seen, this really wasn't too bad. I could have given a 2.5, but I did decide to give this person a 3. I liked the fact they gave some background. I thought their attention getter was pretty good, so I gave them a 3 for their intro. Let's get into the body paragraphs. First body paragraph: one reason why the Reconstruction fell apart. President Grant stopped focusing on it. Clear topic sentence. I know where they're going. They're telling me, Grant quit worrying about it. At one point in President Grant's presidency, a bunch of scandals broke out. The government was corrupted. As Grant focused on flushing out all the corruption in the government, his focus on the Reconstruction in the South disappeared. Alright, so they're citing document C. So I know there's already at least one citation present. And they're talking about the corrupt, a bunch of scandals broke out, so there's even a little bit of analysis in there as well. Another reason why the North ended Reconstruction was because people simply started to not care. They became unconcerned about equal rights. So document C. Again, they're quoting from the same document, but one talks about how Grant didn't focus on it anymore, and then people just becoming unconcerned about equal rights. So these are two citations, and I would give this person multiple citations because it's not the exact same thing. The North also destroyed Reconstruction because people of the North simply didn't want to be bothered by the Negro question. Again, from document C. So it just tells you that people were, tired of it. Not only were they unconcerned, but they grew weary of it as well. They had become tired of it, so they pushed it to the back of their minds and focused on the corruption of the government and the Panic of 1873. So for this first one, clear topic sentence, yes. Relates to the essay, yes. Multiple citations, yes. Even though it's from the same document, that's okay, because they tell me 3 different parts of that document, which is great. And they do provide some analysis with each one of those. So I gave that person a 3 for their first body paragraph. A final reason why the North ruined Reconstruction is that during the autumn season of 1873, a letter was sent out stating that African Americans were unfit to be part of the government. It said that African Americans had been slaves for so long that they had forgotten how to interact with society, and they needed time to relearn how to act. Alright, so clear topic sentence? Yes. Do they have one citation? Yes. This declaration convinced the country that the debate on equal rights had been settled for a time, causing them to forget about it. So some analysis there as well. The only problem with this, there's only one citation. Topic sentence? Good. One citation? Yes. With analysis? Yes. I could have given this person maybe a 2.5, but I chose to give them a 2 simply because I was a little more lenient on some things in these, and so I gave them only a 2. But again, a 2.5 would be debatable. So far this person's doing well. 3 out of 3 here, 3 out of 3 for their first body, and 2 out of 3 for their second body paragraph. So now we're at the conclusion. And again, take a look. Grammar, fine. I don't have any issues with their grammar so far. So our conclusion paragraph. The North destroyed Reconstruction. They destroyed it because the government became corrupt, causing the focus to waver. People started to care less about equal rights. The people became tired of the Negro question, so they focused on national problems. And a letter sent out by a local newspaper declared African Americans unfit to have certain jobs. This is a long sentence. It's a run-on sentence. No paper is perfect. One of the criticisms I could give this person is that this is definitely a run-on. But this is really the first major grammatical error in how this is being read. So this person gets a pass. But they do a really nice job of, again, talking about the main points, kind of advancing their point, and talking about some things. Causing people to lean towards thinking the Negro question was close to being resolved. So they bring up the things that they've already discussed, but they also, talked about people who grew weary of the Negro question, they didn't really like it, and now this author is talking about how it's close to being resolved, so people don't care about it as much. All these things lead to the fall of Reconstruction. Again, I I thought that this kind of gives a pretty good synopsis of what the paper was about. The main ideas were there. There were some of the same facts, but at the same time, drew into some new things as well, which I liked. About how they're unfit to have certain jobs. Before it just kind of mentioned how it was being racist. Negro question, it said they grew tired of it. Here it says that it was close to being solved. And so I thought this person did a good job, and I gave him 3 out of 3. Only one major run-on sentence in this, not much spelling, capitalization problem, so I gave him a 3 out of 3. So this person right here received a 14 out of 15, which is a very, very nice score. So as you're doing your DBQs, be mindful of some of these things, and maybe now you have a better understanding on how I'm going to grade these. But this was a pretty good paper. Not perfect, but pretty good. If you have questions specifically about either one of these, be sure you let me know. Have a good one.